Alright guys, so in this video we will add a form below this table, which is gonna allow us to add new things to do. So let's open our index.php. Now below this table I'm gonna paste a bootstrap form. If you followed me until now, just pause the video and copy this form. I'm just pasting it because I want to save time. It's taking time till I would write all this by hand. And of course this is not the first time I'm trying to record this video, so I have already wrote this code before. So here we have the form tag, and then there's the method post and the ID, which is API underscore form. This is we have a field here. We have div class form group. This is the field for the to do, and then we have another field here for the date. And then below we have an input type submit button, which has an ID, but make sure you write everything as you see here, like the ID, form control, and if you want to have the same styling on your form. And then here we have the input type submit button, which says add. So if I save this file right now, and I will go back to the page and refresh it, I will find this form right here. Okay, now in order for us to send all this data to the API, we should add another we should add some JavaScript code here under our function output data function. So here below our output data function, we should write another code, which is going to be we will do something like this. Whenever we submit this form, we want to send all the data to another PHP file, which is going to be controller.php file. So our post form ID is API form. That's what we will do here. So we have our API form ID, and whenever we submit this form, here we will have a function with an event. Alright, and here using the event, we will prevent the submission of this form. So we have event prevent default. We will prevent the page to load, because whenever we click on the submit button on any form, by default the page gets reloaded. So this prevent default is gonna prevent this reloading stuff. And now below we have another if statement, and here we will check if the to do field value is empty. Then we want to alert the user that the to do field is required. So here we have an if statement. If the to do field's value it's empty, it's equal to an empty string, then here we want to alert, have an alert which is gonna say to do field is required. And then below here else if, another if, we're gonna do the same thing for the date. So we have this is the ID for the to do, and then the date. If the date is empty, we want to do the same thing here. This is gonna say the date fields are required. Alright, and then below here we'll have else none of these fields is not empty. Then we want to have another variable, which is going to be the form data, and we assign to this variable all the data from our fields. So we have here this, serialize, and then here using the AJAX function from jQuery, we will send this data to the controller.php file, which we will create in a second. So we have the URL controller.php, the method is post, and then the data is the form data variable. And then below here, in case this data was sent successfully, we will have a function which is going to have the data subparameter, and then here we will output the data. Here we will output the data. We will call this output data function like this, and then below we will reset our form. So we will have our API form 0 here, reset like this. Alright, so we have this. Okay, this looks good. Controller. Here we check our fields. So let's check everything one more time. Alright, let's go ahead and create our controller.php file. This file is going to be in our web. So we create a new file, controller.php. And then in this file we'll have, let's open the PHP tag. So here, first of all, we will check if we have any data in our post method, because we send the data through the post method. So this is, we will check that using an if statement. If is set post, and we have here action. So if we have anything in our post method in the action variable, because if you remember in our output, we send this output data in our action variable. So if it's set post action, then here we have another if statement, and this if statement is checking if the this if statement is gonna check if the data from our action variable is equal to add new, which means if it's equal to add new, then in our API handler here we'll have another if, and checking the data from our action, we will be able to call another method from our API object, which we will create later. So here we have if post, if post action equal to add new, then here we will have another variable which is gonna be an array. This variable is data, and we assign an array to this data. And here we will have the to do, and we assign to this to do the to do variable from our post method. So we have post to do, and then here we have the date, and this is post date. So below, now having all this data assigned to this variable, we have just one variable with all this data from our post method. Now we can send it to our API. So here we'll have to use again the curl or curl PHP native function to initiate a curl session. So here we have the client variable curl init, and then here we have the API URL, which is in our case is the http api.routvictor.com/API handler.php question mark, and then this is the action variable which I was talking about before, and then we have the add new. This is the data we assign now to this action. In our output, we assign the output data. Now we assign the add new, and then here below we have the curl setup. So we have, and then here we have the three parameters. First one is the client, and then the second one is the method through which we send this data. So we have underscore post, and the third one is true, and then before here, actually this one doesn't need to be there, and then here we have again like that, but the only difference here is the curl, and instead of post we have post fields, and then the third parameter is the data. So here we send the data from our fields. Alright, and then there's another line with curl, which is having the client, but the difference here is that the third parameter is true, and then here we have the return transfer. And then below here we just assign the response to our response variable. So we have a response variable, and we assign we just execute this curl session. Alright, and then after that we just close it. Now let's go to our api.php file, and in this file we want to create another. Here we will create another method in our object. So we'll have here function. This is going to be add new to do, and then here we'll have an if statement. This if statement is going to check if we have anything in our post method in the to do variable. So if is set, and here we have post to do, then here we have another variable which is data, and we assign to this variable an array, and we have all these variables. For this array is going to be for our execution. We will have to prepare the query to the database, and then after that we will have to execute all that query with the predefined variables. So here in our array we have the to do, which is post to do. Alright, and then we have another one which is the date, post date. Alright, and then below here we have our prepared statement. So we have an insert variable, and we assign to this variable this connect, and then we have prepare, and then here we have insert into to do. Alright, we have here the to do column and the date column, and then here we have the values, and the values are to do. This is the variable from here, to do, and the date, which is also from here. Now below we have another if statement. Actually we don't need any if statement, we just have insert variable, and we write here execute, and here we just add the data variable. We want to execute this query using these variables from here, which is the to-do and date. And then below here, let's see if alright, we don't even have to return any data from this function actually, because we just insert the data, and then after that actually we call this return output data one more time, which outputs the data, which calls the output PHP file. So here we can leave it like that for now. We'll see if that's gonna work. It should work actually. So let's go back to our API handler.php file, and then in this API handler.php file we should have another if statement like this one. So I'm gonna paste it here, and this is gonna check for another variable, which is gonna be for the same variable but different data, which in our case it needs to be add new, because here in our controller we call this file with this action variable, which is add new. So here we have add new, and then the method should be add new to do. Alright, like that, and then we get the data here. Get the data in here, JSON encode, and then we just echo the data. So we save it, and let's see what we have. I'm just gonna send all these files to the server. I'm gonna come back here, refresh it. We see this. This is one from our table, which just shows right now. So if I do like this, insert another one, and inspect it, it looks like it doesn't work. So there is some kind of error. So let's see. We send here an action, in our action we send the add new value in our action, but actually here we don't send it. There is not this add action, value for our variable. This is in controller, but we check it here. You see we have an if statement. So in order for this to work, we should have this add new. I missed it whenever I was forgot to add it here in our form. So here before we have our input, our submit button, we should have another hidden field, which is gonna be input, say input type hidden, and then here we have the name, which is action, and then we have the ID action, and then the next one is the value, which should be add new. Now in this case this is gonna work. Okay, input type hidden action ID and value. Alright, I'm gonna send it to the server. I'm gonna go back and refresh this page, and now I will add another thing. Let's say go for lunch and click add, and now we see it out. It works, it inserts it in the database. Just the ID is different because I already tried multiple times. I inserted some stuff in here, and the ID, it was 1, 2. I removed the second and the third line from this table. But if I will empty it and we refresh this page one more time, it says not found. And if we add the first one here, it shows you the first one, number 1, and then go for a walk. We add it. Now it shows everything, all these IDs properly. Anyways, this is not a big deal, but just to show you that this data comes from the database. Alright guys, that's it for this video. If you enjoy it, leave a like this video, subscribe for this channel, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to help you out, guys. Thank you for your attention, and see you in the next tutorial.